This is a short video for both students and teachers who want a general overview of how to carry out an AVID tutorial session. An AVID tutorial is a collaborative group session in which students work together and take responsibility for their learning to tackle and solve challenging assignments from their academic classes. In tutorials, students get help from their group members and tutors if they're available, who ask questions, including higher-level questions, rather than just giving answers. This process empowers students to think critically and more deeply about their learning, as well as gets them to actually refer back to and use their class texts, notes, logs, and reflections. There are 10 steps in the tutorial process. Once your students know these steps, it's a good idea to periodically review these steps with your students.
So, as you know, today we're going to be getting in our tutorial groups and having our regular weekly tutorial sessions. But before we do, let's review what we do during the tutorial process. So, you know there are 10 steps altogether in the tutorial process. Steps 1 to 3 we do before starting the tutorial. Steps 4 to 7 we do during the tutorial. And steps 8 to 10 we do after the tutorial. So, who can tell me what is the first step in the tutorial process? Raise your hand.
It's also a good idea to now and then review with students COSTA's 3 levels of thinking, including Level 1 thinking, Level 2 thinking, and Level 3 thinking.
Making an evaluation, judgment, hypothesizing. How about an example of a Level 3 question? You had an example, yes. Would there be other correct answers? Okay, good. Let's continue.
Steps 1 to 3 take place before the tutorial sessions begin. Okay, so step 1 is the student should be taking Cornell notes in all their academic classes. Step 2 is the students are instructed by the teacher to fill out a tutorial request form, also called a TRF, and this should be done the class before the tutorial sessions. Then step 3 is on the day of the tutorials. Before actually starting the tutorials, the teacher checks each student has completed the TRF and has brought necessary resources to class.
What we're going to do is I'm going to check your TRF. So take out your TRF. I'm going to come around and check that.
Steps 4 to 7 take place during the tutorial sessions. Okay, step 4 is that students get into their tutorial groups. I recommend the teacher make the tutorial groups based on the academic subjects of the students' TRFs, so that this way students are familiar with the subjects of the TRFs. But I do sometimes let students self-select their groups also. Step 5 is to begin the tutorial session. One student begins the tutorial session by presenting the information and questions from his or her TRF. Then, this student presenter uses questions from his or her group members to figure out the answer to his or her point of confusion. If tutors, such as college students, are available, they should guide the students in the session and may also ask questions. Step 6 is for the group members to make sure the student presenter understands the answers to his or her questions. Here is an example of how this is done.
My original question was, how do you know when a triangle is congruent? The definition, key vocabulary word, the definition is an angle, the corners of a triangle. What I know about my question is angle, side, angle, side, hypotenuse, leg, side, angle, side. Those are the all classifications of how you can tell how a triangle is congruent. One step about my process steps are identify the sides and angles. 2, match the problem. 3, understand what the theorem is.
Do you remember what Mr. Main told us about like 3 sides and stuff, the 3 components of the triangles? Yeah, I think that's like the thing to find if a triangle is congruent.
Oh yeah.
So what I know about the problem, I know that 7 plus 4 should be less than x, or greater than x. And x equals 11, so 7 plus 4 has to be greater than 11. And so I also know the equation for the inequality should be max is bigger than x is bigger than the minimum. So my point of confusion is, if I know how to find the maximum, how do I find the minimum? Like, where do I start?
Is there something that you can replace?
I don't know.
That is a formula of the triangle inequality theorem.
Side 1 plus side 2 is greater than side 3.
Step 7 is for the group members to repeat steps 5 and 6 with all group members, just as you see my students doing here.
What to use for a formula for a right triangle. You can't use SOHCAHTOA if the triangle is not a right triangle, and you can only use law of sine and law of cosine when the triangle is not a right triangle. Identify our general process and steps. Figure out if the triangle is a right triangle or non-right triangle. Figure out if it's SOHCAHTOA or law of sine or law of cosine. Input all the numbers that fits to the formula. I don't know if I'm gonna use sine, cosine, or tangent, or law of sine or law of cosine on the triangle.
You can't use SOHCAHTOA for the law of cosine or sine when it is a right triangle.
No, you can't. No, you can't.
Okay, so
No, you can't. So that means that I have to know if it's a right triangle or not.
and how do you know if it's a right triangle?
What are the steps for sines and cosines?
How do you think you can get the steps?
I can go on the internet. I can go to Khan Academy.
Steps 8 to 10 take place after the tutorial process. Okay, step 8 is that after each group member has presented, students should fill out the reflection page of the TRF. These can also be shared with the class. And then step 9 is the TRF should be turned in to the teacher. Finally, step 10 is the teacher and tutors, if you have them, should debrief the tutorial process or talk about how it went, what went well, and what students need to work on. This was just a general overview of how to do an AVID tutorial. I recommend also checking the AVID website and watching other AVID videos for more information. Good luck with your next AVID tutorial session.